So you want to learn how to drift? Well, in this video I will show you how to get started. First by showing you the basics, like what settings you need to be using. Then we will build and tune a car together. After that we will hit up the mountain drift zone and smash out over 1,000,000 points. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do, and the most important thing in this whole video, if you take one thing away from this video, make sure it's this. Go into your settings, go onto your difficulty, and this is going to be how you're going to drift. All these driver aids are going to stop you drifting, which is exactly, obviously, what you don't want. So come onto the difficulty settings and basically go down to your steering. You definitely don't want this on auto steering or assisted. Standard, I use standard. It takes away some of the physics from the car, so it's a little bit easier, especially when you're on controller. If you're on steering wheel, then I would definitely put this to simulation. However, I am just on controller, so we are going to use standard. Simulation, it's like what you feel in the car is exactly what you feel through your controls, and on controller, you can't feel that. On a steering wheel, of course, you can feel that. Definitely have it on simulation if you're on a wheel. Next up is the traction control. This is going to cut your power when it detects wheel spin. Of course, turn this off. Same as the stability control. Shifting, you're definitely going to want on manual. You can use manual with clutch. However, on controller, there's no real need for it, and it just makes it a little bit too hard, especially when you're learning to drift. If I was using a steering wheel, then I would definitely use manual with clutch. I don't have a drift steering wheel, so I'm not going to be using the steering wheel. I have ordered a drifting steering wheel from Moser. It should come next week, but at the moment I'm just on controller because this steering wheel, as you can see, is not a drifting steering wheel. So I'm on controller. This is going to be a guide for controller, so leave this on manual. One last thing is the damage and tyre wear. Obviously you just want this on cosmetic. You can have it on none as well. Cosmetic's obviously going to give you the visual. However, if you put this on simulation, then your tyres are going to heat up too much. They're going to wear out, so leave the tyre wear on the cosmetic. That is basically it for the settings. Next up, we obviously need the car. So the car that I've chosen, as you might already seen, is this R34 GTR. Now this is, as standard, a all-wheel drive car. We are going to change that though. So we are in custom upgrade, and the first thing I'm going to do is change it to rear-wheel drive. This is going to be a bit more of a realistic kind of build. It's still going to have like 1,000 horsepower, but it's not going to be any sort of like Ken Block, Gymkhana kind of build, you know. We're going to have rear-wheel drive. We're going to take off the all-wheel drive. And as for the engine, I think we're just going to leave it as the RB26. Let me see, displacement 2.568. Yes, that is the RB26 that's in there. Of course, you can change the engine if you want a bit more sort of low down power, then chuck on one of these V8s or even the V10, but we're going to keep it true to the Nissan and keep the RB26 in it. Next, we're just going to bump up the power. We're going to pretty much put all the power mods on. We're going to see, we're probably going to aim for about 1,000 horsepower. If we don't get 1,000 horsepower, then maybe I'll look at changing the engine, swap it out for maybe a 3-litre. I think the R34 GTR engine is the 3.5 V6. So maybe if we don't make 1,000 horsepower, we'll put the R35 engine in this. Or is it a VQ 35 WT? D double T? I don't know. I'm a BMW guy, man. If it's not an M50, then I don't know anything about it. But I think it's a VQ something. VQ 35 det, something like that. But we are currently on 800 horsepower. Let's send it. By the time we take out some weight and stuff, then it might be alright. But as for the brakes and stuff, the brakes, to be honest, I keep these on stock brakes, just because if you're kind of left foot braking, you don't want it to be too sharp. You don't really need too much brakes in drifting, just enough to sort of slow you down if you're twinning or whatever. But as for the springs, of course, we're going to put the drift springs on. Anti-roll bars, chuck all of these on. Weight reduction, of course. Chassis, this is optional. It does stiffen up the car just a little bit. However, it's a compromise because you've got the weight and then you've got the stiffness. But I think we're going to go for full stiff, full roll cage with the rear anti-roll bar as well, of course. So with the anti-roll bars, it doesn't necessarily make them better. However, as you can see, unlocks front anti-roll bar stiffness tuning. That's exactly what you want. So next up, the driveline, we are going to put on a race 6-speed. Yeah, we keep it at 6-speed. There's no need for like 7-8 gears when you're drifting. You normally only use sort of like 2, maybe 3. As for the diff, of course, and the drive line, the prop shaft, this doesn't actually do anything other than the weight of the car. So we've just taken out another 4 kilos of weight. But the diff, of course, drift diff as well. So the tyre compound, I normally use the snow or the street sport snow. The drift tyres, they don't allow you to slide the car for longer periods of time, so they've got too much lateral grip. So if you're on the handbrake, then you'll slow down too fast. So either the sport or the street, depending on how much power you have. So we're running on 800, so I'll probably stick to the street. Or the snow. The snow is a really good compromise as well between that level of grip and sort of too much lateral grip. So either the snow, street, or the sport. Or you can try the stock. You know, by the time you put on some thick wheels, the stock might even be beneficial. It's all relevant to how fast your car is, how much power you have. So I'm going to stick the street on. We may change this later on. As for the front tyres, we'll probably bump them up just a little bit. So what we got? We got 285s, 245s, go up to a 265. And on the rear, just to get that power down just a little bit, we'll probably go up to a 265 as well. Rear track width, of course, chuck this out, all for that startsy boy look. And front rim size, what we got on 18s? Yeah, we leave it on 18s. The rim size, that doesn't matter, to be honest. You won't notice a difference. The main thing is the tyre compounds, which, yeah, like I say, is on street. Now, air on appearance, this is entirely up to you guys. So I'm just going to blast through this quick, make it look how I want. Right, guys, so what I've done is just painted the car quickly. It could have been better. I did a rush job. It took me like 2 minutes. Went for like the purpley kind of vibes, midnight purple with the white TEs. And I've come to this part of the map. So it's the runway on the southwest side. Southwest? Yeah, southwest side. And this is where I do all my practicing. So before we do anything, there's just one more step before we can get into the actual drifting. And that is the tune of the car. So there's a couple of things that I like to do on all my cars, which is basically rear tyre pressure, put this down to about 20 psi. The gearing, this is something that we can change as we go along. The alignment on the front, always -5 negative camber. On the rear, just for a little bit more grip, we are going to go probably to about ½ degree of negative camber. So camber is sort of how far your wheel leans. So you see a lot of cars with really aggressive front camber. The front wheels are sort of like this. With the rears, we just want it a tiny little bit. As for the toe, so we're going to go in, we're going to go toe out on the front, just a tiny little bit. What this is going to do is going to make it a little bit more snappy. So we're going to get a lot of rear grip, and we've got a front end that is very positive. It's going to go exactly where we want to go. The rear, I'm probably just going to leave that standard for now. Obviously, you can fine adjust this as you drift. So the front caster on this game, I like to turn down just a little bit. I feel like 7 degrees is just a little bit too high, so I go to about 6. Now, in real life, I have about 8 or 9 degrees of caster on my drift car, and it works really well. However, on this game, especially with that little bit of toe out on the front, it just doesn't feel very responsive, and it relies too much on like the rear grip, the rear mechanical grip. So I like to just turn the caster down just a little bit, but just follow this and I'm sure it'll make a really good drift car. As for the anti-roll bars, again, my personal preference is just a little bit softer on the front and a little bit softer on the rear as well. So we'll probably go down to about 25 on the front, and on the rear we make it a little bit tighter, because the front is just going to roll that slight bit more, and it's going to give you a little bit more mechanical grip. This is optional, this is personal. You may disagree with this, but the same on the front as well. We're just going to soften it just a little bit. Just on the front, we'll probably go to about 20, 22. I may change this later on, and the rears I probably want this just a little bit softer on the rear. So this is the spring. So this is how hard your spring is going to push down. This is different to the anti-roll bars. So typically you want slightly stiffer on the front because you've got the engine. And then ride height, of course, scene points, man. As for the dampening, probably just going to leave that soft. I'm probably going to leave that, yeah, about where it is for now, the dampening. And the aero, you can't change this. The brake, fine, whatever. Diff, now this is one thing that I do like to do. I like to make it completely locked. So if you ever drifted with a welded diff, it's going to be locked acceleration and deceleration. If you've ever drifted with like an LSD, then you might have this at like 70-70, 70-50. But I've always drifted with a locked diff in real life, so I like to lock it in the game as well. But it works really well. It's not going to open up. The diff's not going to send power where you don't want it. So I have this completely locked. But that is it. We can finally get on to some drifting. Now, like I say, I've come to the runway, and what I say to all new beginners is do some donuts. If you can do some donuts, then you know how to drift. So we're going to just get into a donut. So you can see my controller. Basically, it's just all the way to like either the left or the right. Smash out the accelerator and you're into a donut. Now, when you're in donut, what you want to do is feather the steering, just so you make that donut bigger, and feather the throttle as well. So you start off with a small donut and you just get bigger and bigger and bigger until you're doing something like this. That's what I always do. And then once you've done that, you want to get into the donut and then do the figure of 8. So just in first gear, completely first gear at the minute. Just feathering the throttle, feathering the steering. What you're going to learn is if you've got too much throttle or too much steering, you're just going to end up spinning out. Really easy to do this in first gear. Once you've done that a couple of times, then I'll probably do it in second gear as well. So with second gear, the wheels are obviously spinning a lot more, and it's easier to spin out. So once we've done a couple of these, it actually bogs down a little bit in second gear. But once you've done a couple of figure of 8s, what I would then typically say to a new drifter is start initiating. So you go in a straight line, just sort of like 20 mile an hour or so, and then where we went full left and fully powered on, you want to do that again, but just go in sort of like 20 mile an hour. So you end up doing something like this. And what you're doing then is you're initiating. So instead of starting from a standstill, you're then initiating, and you sort of do like a U-turn. Same again. And what you'll find is you can't really spin out with first gear because you hit the limiter and your wheels don't speed up as your car's actually moving faster. So it's fairly easy to do this. And then same again, we want to do the same, but this time in second gear. And what you'll probably find in second, if I try and do this, is it takes a longer time to step out. So second gear once again, this time I'm going to use handbrake. So I've got mine on A, and you want to go along, handbrake turn, and then I'm trying to make it too easy. You want to handbrake turn and then catch it, as we did in the donuts. You want to catch it by feathering the throttle and the steering too. So handbrake turn, come in, just like that. And I'd say do this until you're comfortable with it, until you get the feeling of handbrake turning, and then just doing the U-turn. It's a bit annoying because they've put all these boxes in the way. Normally this airstrip's like really, really wide. So once again, handbrake turn, initiate, and then we're round. So great, my game's frozen. Right boys, we're back after that mishap. That was a bit annoying. My game just froze. But like I was saying, once you've done the handbrake turn, you're then going to want to take that figure of 8 and you're going to want to do something called a manji. So basically we're going to go along, we're going to tap A to initiate, and then instead of going all the way around, we're going to do an S shape. So that S shape, the transition, is called a manji, and you're just taking what you learn on that figure of 8, that middle part, and you're just putting this into practice, just going a little bit faster. So we're going to start here on the right hand side, handbrake turn in, catch it, and then you can see what you're doing is just that middle part of the figure of 8 that we done, and you end up doing this. So the more throttle you have, the faster you're going to go, but also the more likely you are to spin out. So as you can see, I'm never full throttle. I'm always sort of feathering the throttle, feathering the steering. In real life, you wouldn't use any steering, or you'll use very little steering. The car itself would sort of, the weight transfer would steer for you. When you come off the accelerator, the rear will grip and it will send the car for you. So it's not very realistic. You do have to turn a little bit. You do have to steer. But like I was saying, just initiate. Just take that middle part of the figure of 8 over and over again, and that's basically, if you can do this, you can handbrake turn. That's it basically. You learn how to drift. You can do it in second gear, do it in third, do it in fourth. I think this car's probably got the power to do it in third and fourth. Or fourth struggles a little bit. But what you'll find as well, if you try and do this in, say, first, let's try and do it in first. You'll initiate, and then you'll end up hitting the limiter. So you haven't got enough wheel rotation speed to then carry on the drift. So high gear is normally a little bit better, say second, third, fourth. Just get used to doing this for a little bit. Now, one thing I want to show you before we go into the actual like mountain drift is how to like lengthen your drift a little bit. So we do this again. We initiate, get in, and you want to hold the handbrake. So if I really flick this and hold the handbrake, you can see just how far we go on the handbrake. So if you're coming up to a corner that you can't quite make, sometimes it's a good idea to hold the handbrake and oh, I'm gonna crash. Oh, you can just go through these, nice. So let me do this again. So we initiate, and then just lengthen it out with the handbrake. Just get used to doing this. So you want to hold the handbrake or tap the handbrake, and then steer just a little bit. And you want to lengthen the drift, you see. Obviously, you're going to slow down a little bit. That's where the sports tyres come in handy, because they haven't got a lot of lateral grip. Lateral as in like sideways. So it makes doing this just a little bit easier. If you find that you can't do this, then you might have to put on the stock tyres, or even the snow tyres as well, because the stock and the snow, they have the least amount of lateral grip. But normally about this much, this, I want to say, rate of slowdown, if you like, is pretty good. See, it's not going like 90 mile an hour, 0 mile an hour. It's slowing down quite slowly. So that is one really good tip. Use the handbrake to lengthen out your drifts. So I've probably talked enough. Let's go to the mountain drift, and let's see what sort of score we can do. This is just a quick setup. It's just a basic setup. It's not going to be the biggest score. The big score is really you want to be using the Formula Drift cars. But we're probably starting fourth. Oh yeah, this car's got a lot. This car's probably got a little bit too much grip for this. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'll put the tyre pressures up. Actually, probably put these back up to 30. Maybe a little bit more, actually. Come up to 35. That might help. The more tyre pressure you have, obviously, the more it's going to slide. Okay, let's try that again. Still probably got just a little bit too much grip there for that first part. I think it should work pretty well on this part. Boys, we need more power. That's what we need. We need more power. I think the grip levels are pretty good. However, it's just bogging down just a little bit in 4th gear. So I'm probably just going to chuck in a bigger engine. So we're going to switch out for the 3 litre inline. Oh, it's in inline 6. I don't actually know what engine that is then, because it's an inline 6. Maybe you can let me know in the comments. I thought it was the V6 from the R35. The proper Nissan GTR. But obviously not, if it's an inline. So we're going to get up to... Okay, we've gone a bit over the 1,000 that I initially went for. We're on 1200 now. Nearly 1,300. But the extra power is just going to allow us to use 4th gear, get a little bit more wheel speed, and we'll probably do a little bit better at the mountain run. Wow, this engine sounds mega. Wow, we can even start in 5th, okay. I've actually spun it. So I probably span it because I haven't got enough rear grip now. So I'm just going to put this back down to 20. That's nice. Yeah, this is really nice now. So it's very rare that you get a car like spot on first time round. So you may have to change the engine, more power, change the alignment, change the tyres in this case. So you can see that I'm never sort of like fully on the accelerator, unless of course it's a really shallow turn. If I was to like fully accelerate now, I'd definitely just spin out. Of course, like now I need to accelerate all the way. Just holding that handbrake there as well. I know it's quite a shallow drift. I didn't have enough speed coming out of that corner. So just held that handbrake just for a little bit longer than I wanted to. Just to allow the car to travel out more, to extend that drift. Here as well, I need to scrub off some speed. So just a little bit of brake too. This is why we don't have very good brakes. Because if I was to put very good brakes on it, we would have just stopped then. Oh no, I've ruined it. Oh no, boys, I've ruined it. We carry on. It's not going to be the best run in the world. Not the best run that I've ever done. Here you see, just using that handbrake. This extra power is lovely. Oh no, I looked at my speedo. So this isn't the best run, like I say. However, you get the idea. So we're using all of what we learn at the airfield. The initiation, admittedly, the initiation is probably the hardest part, where you're going so much faster and you're holding the handbrake for longer. As still a mil. That was not the best run. I'm trying to talk as well, you know. It's always going to be quite hard. But what we're doing is using exactly what we learnt on the airfield. The initiation, the middle part of the figure of 8. All that is the manji, like here. The holding the handbrake to extend the drift. You know, we learnt that back at the airfield. So if you can do everything that I said at the airfield, or little reverse entry there. If you can do everything that I said at the airfield, then you're on your way to learning how to drift properly. Like I say, this wasn't the best run. It was just a quick little run just to show you what this car can do. If you want the tune, then let me put the tune on screen now. So if you want the tune for this car, this is it here. It's called Shano YouTube, and the share code is that there. If there is any more information or tips that you need, then by all means comment down below. But that's the share code. Hope this video helped you out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.